Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian Mountains, fields and streams. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks are on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. The coyotes run all night. It's music to my ears and in my sights. I've got this hunting fever down in my bones. I'm glad my daddy taught me everything I know. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks are on the run. Where dreams are made, trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks are on the run. Where dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. Is our name.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Welcome to On Air and Outdoor with TLC Outfitters. Hope you all having a great start to your week. My name is Trinity Shepherd, and as always, we are joined by Mr. Matt Woolwine, and I hope everybody is tuning in. And hopefully, man, some people got outside and enjoyed the opener to the fall hunting season this weekend with some squirrel hunting.
If they didn't get out this past weekend, buddy, they sure don't want to get out in the middle of the week here. I tell you, it's hot.
Oh, we were talking to our Florida folks down south. They sent us a picture today of the temperature down there. It's 100 degrees, and man, if you look at the forecast, I don't know what it's going to be down there where you're at, but tomorrow's going to be 90, Thursday 94, Friday 95. I mean, that's I don't know why I'm blurry for. That rivals anywhere.
Yeah, I believe the further west in the state you go, it's going to get hotter. Is the way I understand it.
Yeah. I'm looking a little blurry. It's all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. Does it look blurry, Matt?
It's a little blurry. It ain't terrible.
Nah, they don't need to see my ugly face anyway. Anyway, yeah, it's been pretty hot. I hope everybody got a chance to get out and maybe enjoy a little squirrel hunting this weekend. And man, I'll tell you, talking to some of these guys that we talk to that are kind of diehards, things were not as many squirrels as people's been seeing. But man, it depends on where you go from region to region, really, and what's happening. But there's all kinds of squirrels for people to get out there and enjoy, and it's a good mass crop here from what I've seen.
Yeah, maybe down there. I was out around the farm here a couple days ago, and these swamp chestnuts and stuff like that, they're not loaded down like they normally are. So I don't know what's happening there exactly, but Maybe down there where you're at, they're a little thicker. You got a lot different species roaming around. I'm pretty much covered up with swamp chestnut oaks, and that's about it up here. So at least on my personal place. So
yeah, very good. We got some folks joining us tonight. As always, our number one fan, my mama, says hello. Hello, mama. We've got our buddy Gator Paul says, hey guys, did they tell you they got a gator today? They sure did, Gator Paul. We're going to be talking about Wayne and Scott here in just a little bit. Our very own Corey Black says, howdy. Very own Chris Mead says, evening, boys. And right here, man, look at this right here. This is our buddy John Stepp from Eastern Outdoors Media. They had 117 sign up for their squirrel hunt tournament. Only 6 teams with a 12 squirrel limit had a good time, though. So that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with, there's a lot of things that you can chalk up, not seeing a lot of squirrels or whatever to, when it's a good mass crop year, they got plenty to eat. They don't have to congregate. It depends on the weather. It's real hot right now. So, there's a lot of things to it. But the most important thing, like John's talking about here, is getting out and having a good time.
Them old squirrels might have had an air conditioner going in their nest. You never know.
That's right. 67 counties. Out of 120 counties, 67 counties represented, dude. That's awesome. That is awesome. Man, I love technology, dude. But that's pretty awesome, man. That's we're real interested in following that over the years. It'll grow next year. It'll be pretty awesome. Way to go, John. Way to go, Eastern Outdoors Media team. That is good stuff right there. We appreciate you tuning in. Look here, man. Sarah says from down south says, hi, gentlemen from Nature and I. There'll be no more bad skunk talk on this show tonight.
That's right. We ban all bad skunk comments.
So talking about back to Gator Paul, Gator Paul and Sarah's from Florida, our TLC family down there, and what they were talking about, it is opening gator season down there, and you've heard us talk about them before, but our TLC family down south, there on your left, holding the gator's mouth open, is one of the conservation officers down there, Scott Sumter, and then retired FWC officer Wayne Hargabus right there with a nice gator that they got this week. Pretty awesome deal. And this is what we've been talking about, Matt. We're excited to head down in October and let you get a little taste of what gator hunting's all about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We got those little short videos they sent today, and that sure gets you excited for going down there. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's pretty awesome. So congratulations to Scott and to Wayne on an awesome harvest right there, man. Any gator, I don't care, any gator, you work for it. And I think this is coming in there around 8 feet or something like that. So very good. We're looking for Granddaddy Daddy when we go down 10 to 12 foot. I know they're going to have him tied up for you.
I want one of them looks like a 55-gallon drum with a tail is what I want.
Yeah. There you go. Now, also, if you tuned in last week, we were talking about Tinsley Custom Wildlife. We had showed you the bourbon glasses on there that they're making, and we had talked about these custom-made slings that they're now making. And I finally got those pictures up and everything. So I want you to take a look at this. Man, the craftsmanship on these slings are amazing. These are custom-made right there. Tinsley Custom Wildlife. Look at those. I mean, you've got, that one there's a zebra. And
Trendy, I believe I've seen these in person, and they're top-notch quality. They really are.
Right.
Heavy leather. They've got, of course, the different hides attached to them there. But you can see some have the thumb holes in them and some don't. So you got a choice there. But I believe what's hanging here is, and if he's watching, he can correct me, but I believe that one on the left is just cowhide.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you got a zebra there, and then I believe that one on the right might be giraffe.
Yeah.
But I know he does. He's got blue wildebeest. He's got a lot of different stuff you can choose from.
Yeah, and all these can be customized, as you can see here with our South African partner right here, Van Buren African Safaris. You can have, I mean, pretty much anything you want to customize on the leather. So we're really excited about these. These are going to be a nice addition to anybody's firearm and shooting rig, hunting rig. So once again, just a class act and a work of art coming out of Tinsley Custom Wildlife. Very good. Paul Shear says 7'7". It's in his cooler. Talking about their gator.
I'm glad to know that gator processing's back open for at least friends. I don't know. I think maybe he shut it down last year. Maybe got too busy there at one point or something. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
Hopefully we get to use that cooler here in a couple months.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Very excited. Also talking about squirrel hunting. You've heard us talk about them before. We got Nathan Harless on the left. We've got PJ Collins with their boys. This is their annual squirrel hunt, and of course, a long-standing youth squirrel hunt campout down here in our neck of the woods in Floyd County that was continued this year. I forget how many years. Very, very long-standing youth program that they've got. And as you can see here, they got a few squirrels this weekend. But for the most part, they just got out there and had good camaraderie, had good fun, and taking a bunch of youth hunting. So pretty good time there by Nathan and PJ and their boys there. So very good. Congratulations. Paul Shearer said, it is open for us, man. We are in business. We are in business. I apologize for this camera, folks. I can't believe this. We've had internet issues. We've got camera issues. We've got all kinds of stuff. So you just have to bear with us. Sometimes that happens. Now, Matt, we've been touching on a lot of different stuff. We've been talking about food plots. And, I had a chance to come up. I don't know if it was a week ago or when it was, but I got to come up and go take a look at your food plots. Give us a little food plot update on how everything's looking.
Well, everything looking good. Right now, I've got a lot of clover coming up. That'll remain clover. I won't be wiping that out or nothing, but so it'll be clover on into wintertime. I've got a couple different spots that need to be sprayed this weekend. Once I spray them, then I'll come back, first week of September or something, and turn that ground under a little bit, disc it under a little bit, and start putting in my brassicas and my oats. So I like a smorgasbord. So I'll probably have some oats. I'll probably have some brassicas of different varieties. And then of course I've got the dove food plot, that's maturing right now as we speak. So here in about a week, I'll start knocking some of that seed down on the ground and get ready for this dove season come up. Can't hear you, buddy.
How about now?
Yep, you need to start back over.
I said we're looking forward to dove season. We've got we always look forward to it, and we got a couple special hunts planned and some stuff going on. So we're pretty excited about that, and going to go to some new territory this year. We're going to be doing some filming and things like that. So we're pretty excited. We'll have a very special dove hunt coming at you on our YouTube channel. So everybody stay tuned to that as well. Man, we've got a special guest going to be coming on here in just a few minutes. I call him I call him Dr. Eastern Kentucky Deer Man. That's what I call him because I've never seen a guy. He was on a show long ago and to talk to us about deer hunting. And this guy, every year, man, figures it out. It doesn't matter if there's no mast, if there's a lot of mast. It doesn't matter. Seems like he always gets the job done, and he knows a lot about whitetail science. But we're going to be joined by PJ Collins tonight. He's going to be coming on and talking to us about this upcoming whitetail season and maybe some other stuff here in just a few moments. So Matt, what is that clover? Talking about those clover fields, are you starting to see deer use them more? What's your whitetail looking like so far?
I'll tell you, man, it's usually pretty late in the year before the bucks start showing up here. I mean, does and fawns left and right. I mean, it's constant. And, those does and things, man, they have been there in that clover for 2 months. I mean, every day you go back there. Heck, you've been back there with me. We put in that new spot. We go back there for 30 seconds and we run into deer and they, get blowed out of there. So the deer are thick. They're in that clover pretty heavy right now. Of course, my dove food plot has got the mixture of the millet and the buckwheat in it. And they have destroyed that buckwheat. They eat it down. You've seen that.
Yep.
So, they're really picking on that stuff quite a bit, especially that clover. Starting to see a lot of turkeys in that clover. Moms with older poults now. Of course, they're in there getting some bugs and different things like that, eating the tops off them clover too. But it's a lot of wildlife action going on right now.
Yeah. I'm pretty
Of course,
excited.
It won't be long before the persimmons start to turn. It's a little bit warm right now. If you remember a couple of years ago, the persimmons, everybody says you got to wait till after the first frost to eat those persimmons. But, we had a real dry spell there a couple of years back. And those persimmons, they turned on in September. And I mean, were just as sweet as you can put in your mouth. And I think what had happened is, that drought stressed that tree so much that tree said, you know what? If this is the end of my life, I'm going to put all my energy into the next the next generation. And so instead of it having to wait till that frost hit, I think that stress really, sped up the process of those sugars coming into those fruits.
Yep.
And so I ain't no professional. I tell you all the time, we may not know what we're doing. We may not do it all right, but at least we're doing something. But in my mind, that tree stressed so bad that it was willing to dump all its resources into the next generation, which sped up that process of those sugars in those fruits. So, it was 90 degrees in September, and here I was eating persimmons. So I kind of look for that to happen again this year a little bit.
Yep, I do too, man. And that's been a trend since then with persimmons and other things. I don't know what it done. It altered things, but I'm pretty excited, and that just means more food for the wildlife, which is what Habitat Manager is all about. We got PJ waiting on us, got him set, and look who's finally here, man.
Finally here. I tell you what, if he moved any slower, I'd call him Trendy Shepherd.
Oh yeah, thanks. Hey PJ, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, Trinity. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. PJ, this is Matt. Matt, this is PJ. Appreciate you being on here.
PJ, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. You doing all right?
I'm making it.
I'll second your persimmon story there because I noticed that last year as well. I think you're pretty much spot on with that. I mean, that's every living species goal is to continue on the genetics to the next year. So, sometimes they do things like that, you just don't expect. I actually just looked at a couple big female persimmons on my place last week. And, man, they were loaded down. They were still very, very green, didn't see any sign of early dropping or anything like that. But I think you're spot on with that. Could be a very legit possibility this year.
Well, up here in central Kentucky, it was pretty dry. Pretty dry spring and early summer, and I just kind of wonder if that's going to force their hand again to do the same thing.
Yeah, it very well might. I'm going to scoot over here, guys. I'm actually in Louisville at the state fair for work. I'm going to scoot over here and plug my phone in. I just realized I'm about dead here.
That's all right, brother. That's no problem. We know you're in travel status. We appreciate you joining us, man. That's no problem whatsoever. So, Justin just joined us. Justin, we did show your slings, man. And, anybody interested in any kind of taxidermy work or sling work or, checking those slings out or anything that Tinsley Custom Wildlife, they can contact you and check them out on Facebook at Tinsley Custom Wildlife. And as always, man, why does it always have to go to this, Matt? Persimmon moonshine.
Hey, but there's rednecks everywhere. It's just not hillbillies in eastern Kentucky. There's hillbillies there in central Kentucky too, and that's proof of it.
Yeah. I mean, he acts like that it's just as easy to make his stuff or something. He must, persimmon moonshine, he must be buying that stuff legally, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Uh-huh.
So, PJ, man, tell us about your hit list this year. I know, if I know one thing about PJ Collins, there's not a big buck around that ain't on his radar, and I know you've already got one or two on your radar. So,
I'll tell you, buddy, it's a little different this year. Got 2 kids now, and they keep me pretty busy at work. I've got all the cameras going, and food plots are planted. My fall annual plots are planted, which I think is going to be a massive failure considering we've got 15 days of 90-degree heat, no rain in the forecast. So that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. I'd say I'll be replanting, but got a lot of deer, man. There's a lot of deer this year. I'm kind of looking for an EHD outbreak here in the next couple of years because it seems like it happens every 5 to 6 years, and the population's high. I've got tons of bucks, some really nice up-and-comers. I know where a few mature deer are, but I don't know if I'll be chasing them early season this year or not. I think I may just sit back and wait for them to come to me in the fall.
There you go. Now, with that being said, I'm glad you brought up EHD. Tell me if I'm kind of wrong or right on this. So it's been, I think, about 6 years now since our last EHD outbreak. Was it 6 or 7?
Yeah, 17 was the real bad one. Yeah. It happens. I mean, there's cases of it every year.
That's right.
But the real bad outbreak, 17, at least in the eastern part of the state. There's different areas. I know the area that I hunt, primarily northern Floyd County, it was kind of ground zero for the 17 outbreak. Man, we got wiped out.
Yeah.
I've still not shot a doe since 17 in zone 4 because of it. I know Fish and Wildlife, they had a lot of estimates out there, but when you're out there in the field in that EHD zone like that, I mean, there was deer everywhere dead. Dewey Lake was full of deer.
Yeah.
Anywhere there was water, you could find them. It's hard to watch. It really it's very hard to watch it happen. But yeah, I mean, it's a midge, man. It's a biting midge that transmits that virus, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. It's just part of it.
That's right. And what I have alluded to, over the years is that, our predictions or what I predicted was that about 3 years after that outbreak, you'd start seeing everybody. If we didn't have another outbreak, see, that's how tedious that is. If you have an EHD outbreak and then you have back-to-back outbreaks or you have something that happens, some type of event, that's where you get, population eradication. But 3 years after that, with what was left, the new genes come in. If you've noticed over the last 3 years, everybody is killing monster deer. Some of the biggest bucks we've ever seen come out of eastern Kentucky came from the last 3 years. And the silver lining is that it's basically a genetic cleanse, but we're ticking towards that plateau again before we go to the downhill slide with, population size being too much, genetic stagnation. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on.
Right. There's a resource availability too after you get a mass die-off like that. Especially in Eastern Kentucky, we don't have agriculture or nothing like that. Winter is really hard on our deer herd. They survive eating leaf buds and browsing woody vegetation and stuff in the winter. And, you see that after an EHD outbreak, like you said, 3 years or so after that, you do tend to see more, bigger quality deer. There has to certainly be a correlation there between that. You'll see an increase in your just overall, good genes and big antler deer, 2 to 3 years after those EHD outbreaks. And, it could be like you said, genetic cleansing like that. Your stronger deer survive. But at the same time, you just got an abundance of resources that are available to the deer that do survive. So they're not, starving for food.
Yep. Justin T said EHD is God's way of making the herd strong. Hate to see it, but it's God's way. You're right, man. When they when that happens, it cleanses out and it doesn't discriminate. And the ones left behind are pretty strong and good genetics. Then it leaves way for new genetics. PJ, so talk to us a little bit about, we're a couple weeks out, September 2nd, it's the open of archery season. Talk to us a little bit about maybe some tactics that hunters should be looking at. It appears to me, and I know you boys squirrel hunted some this year. One, is it a good mass crop year? We're talking about white oaks primarily. And two, what kind of tactics and tips would you have for hunters early season trying to go after a velvet buck?
Early season hunting is different than anything else. The bucks are still in bachelor groups. They're still in their summer feeding pattern. But now that changes typically, what I see around the second week of September. You start seeing everything change. As soon as that velvet comes off, the deer start just acting completely different than what you've watched them do all summer long. A lot of people started feeding in August this year. And, if they've got bucks coming into that feed, that's a good time to potentially, get a shot on them. Most of your movement's going to be right at the edge of dark. And, morning hunts are tough in early season for a variety of reasons, especially in the mountains. Thermals play a big part in that in the early season. Early in the morning when that sun comes up and that fog starts burning up, your thermals are lifting. So you're hunting low on the hill. In most cases, because you don't have access to the higher parts of the hill where the deer are usually going to be bedding at. So there's a lot of tactics you can use. Don't hunt the mornings. I never hunt the mornings in the early season because all you're doing is just taking a major risk, and you're going to educate that deer that you've been watching all summer long. It's hard to do sometimes, especially if you're going by just trail cameras, because you'll see those deer there in the mornings. But even if the deer's there in the mornings, I won't ever even try to encroach in there to hunt it. To hunt in the mornings, I'll go in and late in the evenings, and of course, the thermals play a big role. There's just you can do your scent regimen all you want, but when it's 100 degrees outside, you're going to sweat when you get to your tree stand, and you got to take all that into consideration in the early season. And the deer, in my opinion, are easier to pattern, but all the forces of nature are against you. They're on high alert. You've got the bugs, the snakes. It just every aspect of it's difficult. But people kill big bucks every year in the early season, and I know a lot of it's overfeed, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's legal in the state, so have at it. But if you want to shoot one overfeed, that's the time to do it. A lot of times is the opening week in the season, because especially if you've been feeding the month prior to that. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, what's the highest on your big buck list when it comes to, this is top priority? We've been talking about thermals. We've been talking about scent control. We've been talking about feed. We talk about, so heading into early archery, what's the top three things that is, this is the succession to success for PJ? Like, what's your number one thing? Are you primarily thermals? How does that look?
I would say early season scent plays a big role in it for me, just because they're on such high alert. But really, even all throughout the season, access, and this is mountain specific. This is Zone 4, Eastern Kentucky. The number one problem hunting these mountain deer is access. You know, unless you've got top-down access, you're fighting a losing battle. Those deer have the upper hand on you already because they're above you. If you ever look and find those deer beds early season and then late winter, they're always up higher elevations on those big points overlooking access routes in, so they can see one way and smell another. And there's a reason why they bed in those areas. So that's the biggest obstacle, in my opinion, is to be able to access a stand without blowing the deer out that you're hunting, you know, especially a big deer. And that's a big issue with feeding. I don't feed anymore for that very reason. You know, a cell camera will drive you crazy when you're feeding a big mature buck, because he's there when you're not, and he's not there when you are. And, you know, eventually I always thought, well, you know, that's just coincidence. My luck's bad. But no, after 6, 7, 8 years of doing that and never killing the big buck that I was hunting on, you know, a food source that I was putting out, I just quit doing it altogether for that very reason. You know, those deer know that's an unnatural food source, so they're staying close by. They're going to be able to smell you, see you, hear you getting into that access area. And that's one thing that really changed the game for me hunting. I quit hunting over it altogether and started getting into food plotting and habitat management, and you know, trying to direct the deer where I wanted them to be, to where I had the upper hand and not the other way around. And you know, that's been I've had a lot more success after that, after I kind of switched to that strategy of hunting. You know, I know people that shoot, you know, 150 plus inch deer every year over corn, and I don't know how they do it. I've never been able to figure it out. You know, maybe they've just got the perfect access, no pressure. I don't know what it is, but I never could pull it off. You know, of all the big bucks I've killed, I think I shot one off a corn feeder, and that was a few years back. And I'll tell you another thing, in that early season, and not just early season, all throughout the season, is hunting those storm fronts. Is just, I don't know how. And Nathan Harless is the same way. We have shot so many mature deer in the rain. And, you know, we talk about it every year. And when we see and not before or after the rain, that's also a good time to hunt, during the rain. If it's not a torrential downpour, if you just got a light, misty rain, man, that's the best time to hunt. These big mature bucks are not stupid. They know predators are unlikely to be hunting at that time, so they're going to be more prone to move in daylight. And don't think for a second, you got to give these deer a big, you know, 4.5+ year old deer. You got to give them credit, man. They know how to avoid hunters. They know how to survive.
Yeah.
And a lot of that plays into that. You know, what you think, you know, hunting a 2.5-year-old deer or a young deer, it's totally different. You're hunting a whole different animal, a whole different species, it seems like. And, you know, when I started to approach hunting in that sense, it really helped me with the caliber and the age class of the deer that I was harvesting. You know, I try to shoot, you know, 4.5+ year old deer. I need to be shooting 5.5, but when in these mountains, man, when a 140-inch 4.5-year-old buck walks by me, it's just going to be a bad day for him. But, you know, if you really want to shoot those 160, 170 class deer, and they are here, you got to shoot those 5, 6-year-old deer. And the only way to do that is not shoot them when they're 4 years old. So
that's right. Matt, what questions do you have?
You know, it's just it's funny because hearing you all talk about Eastern, of course, you know, I spend time in Eastern Kentucky, but I don't necessarily hunt a lot in Eastern Kentucky. I'm hunting up here more in the central part of the state where we got ag fields and this and that, and you know, you can access your stand from 18 different directions if you needed to. I don't necessarily have to climb a mountain to get to where I need to go, and so it's definitely different for us down here than it is for you guys.
Yeah. And you know, that's the thing, man. I like coming down there and hunting, but it's still, you know, I mean, that's like where you're at. You still got those, you know, it's not like just flat country. I mean, there's more flat country, but you still got hills and hollers there.
Yeah. No, we definitely have you know, drains and different things that those deer use, and you know, that they hide in and travel in and different things like that. But one thing I'll touch on what PJ said there is, you know, I like what he said about the deer knowing that corn feeder is an unnatural food source. And I mean, that's 100% true. I'm not saying they won't use it, but they're more cautious around it. to where if you've got ag fields, or if you've got food plots that are established, and this is year after year after year, you know, I heard a guy tell the other day, he said, you know, do you use brassicas? And I said, yes. And he said, well, do you see deer? And I said, deer love them, you know. And he said, well, I put in brassicas, you know, 2 years in a row, and it was like they just laid there and rot. And I said, them deer have to get used to a new food source. Not saying that they won't go in there and nibble on it, but if it's not natural to them, until they really get used to it being there, you're probably not going to see as much activity. But now, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 10, if you're planting the same types of crops and those deer are traveling the same corridors to get to those geographically located food sources, and it's natural to the next generation, and it's natural to the next generation, that's when you can really start using food sources to your advantage.
Let me ask you two something. One promise I kind of made myself, and I'm a little bit late in the game this year. You know, we're in elk mode right now, so that's all on my mind. We got this dove hunt coming up, so I'm always late to the game when it comes to whitetail. But one promise I kind of made myself this year is one, I feel like that so many hunters allow tradition and historically what they've done to knock them out of chances at big whitetail deer. And what I mean by that is for instance, on our farm, my mom hunts with us. I mean, she hunts the same stand year after year. I hunt the same place year after year, and we're primarily talking about firearm hunting. Now, my mom's had a lot of success and killed some really nice whitetail. I think it's because of her patience, and we put a lot of time and effort into her area. But I run a lot of cameras on that property, and it's the old adage. You go out, you put a camera out, you put some feed out, you may put a salt block out, you do all these things, but it's the same thing year after year. So this year, I'm going to run cameras, but I'm going to give myself a grace period. If I put up a camera, there's nothing there, I'm moving on to the next place and the next place and the next place. And I'm going to try to get out of that tradition of, this is where I've always hunted, and I'm going to go just sit there and wait, to be more methodical about, okay, let me look at the terrain. Talk to me a little bit, PJ, about whether you own an acre or 1,000 acres, if you're traditionally going in the same place every year and you're not consecutively either seeing or killing or having a chance to harvest big bucks, you need to change your tactics. I'm one of those guys. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I'll tell you, it took me, I've hunted deer in eastern Kentucky since I was old enough to walk and help with my dad, and then started hunting by myself, 13, 14 years old. Don't hunt where you think the deer should be. Hunt where the sign is. And, deer, especially a mature buck, these deer move. You always hear the old saying, deer stay within a mile from where they're born. That's not true. Deer are different. Some deer are roamers. Some deer stay in very isolated areas, especially if there's no pressure. But there's nothing that is just by chance with a deer. So if you got a picture of a deer, a big buck, say, I don't know, Halloween, you got a picture of a big deer on a farm, you never seen him again. That next year, especially if the weather's the same, I'd be sitting in that same spot expecting that same deer to come back through there. Because those deer know exactly where they're going at all times. Unless they're getting chased by something, they know exactly where they're going, and they know where they're going. They know what they're going towards. And, that's a big factor that I started playing into, is using historical data from either trail cameras or hunting experiences. And, bow hunting, like you said, your typical, hunt the same stands over and over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're just out there hunting and that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. They've been a lot of big deer killed like that.
That's right.
But, it's a lot of work to be mobile and be a hunter, especially if you're hunting from an elevated position. And, it just wears you out, especially moving tree stands, hanging tree stands, this and that. And that has a lot to do with why people typically want to stay stationary. They'll talk themselves into it. Well, Papaw killed a big buck here 2 years ago. I know they're in the area, and that big buck may come right through there. You never know. But if you're not getting pictures or you're not seeing sign of a big buck, especially if it's in the fall, you need to be moving locations. You need to be finding where that deer is using, where he's laying down that sign, because he's going to be close to that. And it's just different. It's different deer. Different deers on a property you're hunting. There's going to be total different deer there in the fall versus in the early season. That's, in my opinion, that's nature's way to prevent or to increase genetic diversity. If deer stayed within a mile of where they was born, then deer would be breeding with siblings.
That's right.
That's not how nature works. That's not how it's intended to work. So those deer move, they travel long distances. So when you start seeing those new deer that just venture through an area you're hunting, you get a couple pictures a year of them, be expecting that deer to do the same thing the next year, because that's exactly what he's going to do. Yep. And I've killed some big deer doing just that. I've shot deer 6 miles away from where I've got pictures of it in the early season as the crow flies. So, those deer move a lot, and move those cameras around, try to find where they're at. And kind of like what Matt was saying, talking about feed, that's, you can get a good inventory of deer that are in an area by putting a camera on a feeder. But if you want to get a real good inventory of the deer that move through an area, seasonally, put those cameras on trails, put those cameras in areas that, that you rarely go to, and leave them there, especially with these new cell cameras and these solar panels and stuff. Put them cameras out and leave them, if you've got the ability to do that, and just wait and see what it tells.
I'll tell you one more thing about, hunting feed. Feed to me is dumping something out, not a food source. What I think of as a food plot or ag field or mash crops. But when I think of feed, I'm thinking dump something out. If all you want to do is put meat in the freezer, then hunt that feed. Okay? But if you want to kill a particular animal, in this case, we're talking a big mature buck. If you get so focused on watching that feed, you're going to miss that deer.
It's cost me some big ones over the years.
If in your mind you think that hey, I dumped this out, by golly, that deer's going to come to it. If that's what you're focused on, you're probably going to fail.
And they'll fool you on those cameras. Trail cameras will fool you.
Especially after mid-September.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Don't focus on the feed. Focus on the animal. And do what you need to do to hunt that animal, not hunt the feed.
Circle back to what Matt was saying about the food plots too. I plant a lot of brassica as well. And I seen the same thing. I planted brassica crop 2 years in a row, and the deer just would not mess with. They'd nip around on the tops of it. They would eat the radishes a little early, but turnips and rape and kale and stuff like that, they really didn't hit it. But year 3, everything changed when they realized that was an established food source that's there every winter. Man, Brassica's where it's at in Eastern Kentucky, because there is nothing green in the winter here. So if you find something that's green, it makes a big difference in your ability to draw in big deer.
I owned a pretty good sized farm up in the mountains there, Trendy. You're familiar with it. And I planted sunflowers one year. Well, that first year, them sunflowers turned out nice and big and beautiful. And that second year, there wasn't a sunflower left in the whole field. They eat every single one of them buds off there when they them deer come through and picked every one of them sunflower heads off. But the first year, it was like they'd never seen it before. They didn't know that it was edible or whatever the case was. But now the second year they seen it, they said, you know what? I think I like that.
Absolutely. And that's what it was with Brassica too. I mean, they just, there's no agriculture. Trinity knows, we're from the same region. There's no agriculture here at all. Locals grow, little gardens in the yard.
Yeah, if it's not a garden, it's not agriculture.
That's right. And the deer just didn't know it was a food source. But and you could tell they just, they would nip around and test it out and try it. And then, eventually it took 3 years. But now, Brassica's a thing. Brassica's an easy crop to plant. It grows good on these old reclaimed strip mines too. If you can correct that
You
pH,
don't have
man.
You don't have to get deep in the soil. You can just barely cover that over with a drag, and those, let those radishes and those turnips start penetrating the soil. You don't have to do it.
That's right. They'll till it up for you. And I've got when I first got into food plotting, I bought a tractor and a disc and all the, I spent all kinds of money, because I was ready, I was gung ho about it. I love habitat work anyway and hunting, so it was naturally for me to fall in love with that aspect of it. I don't even use a tiller anymore. Don't even use a disc. I no-till everything without a seed drill. You don't have to when you're planting grains and brassica and clover. If you can frost seed that clover, serves the same purpose. And I'll no-till brassica and everything, just seed it into thatch, spray that thatch, kill it, mow it down on top of it. It protects that seed from birds, protects the seed from drought, protects the seed from heavy rains and washing out. And I've had better luck with brassica seed in Eastern Kentucky. Now, these are poor soils because if you're planting a food plot, most likely it's an old reclaimed strip mine. I've had better luck with no-till than I have disking and doing things, the whole, shabam, tilling it, dragging it, culti-packing, everything. I have better luck. Now, that works really good if Mother Nature does exactly what she's supposed to do. You get that perfect amount of rain. But if you get too much rain or not enough rain, then it'll mess you up big time. And I've had it happen numerous times. You get a good hard rain mid-August, you till that ground up. It's heavy in shale, so it's a dark colored dirt anyway. You seed into it, you seed germinates, and then you get a week of 90-degree temps and no rain, and it just fries, kills that fresh germinated seed. If you've got a thatch layer covering that and it germinates prematurely like that, that thatch layer will protect it from the sun, and you get a lot better survival with that. And these, like this year, a lot of people is going to have trouble with their food plots this year with the way everything is going. We're going towards the end of August right now. You got 60-day maturity on those brassicas. Mid-September or mid-October, your primary, major frost. I'm planting. I've already got everything in the ground. And I sowed everything knowing there was no rain coming. I done it because it was the only opportunity that I had because of work. But these heavy, foggy mornings have germinated my brassica seed.
Oh,
without rain. And now I have no rain and 95, 98-degree temperatures for the next 6 days. So I'm in trouble. I'm expecting that my whole brassica, I'm just going to have to reseed them before we get some rains here in the next coming weeks or so. And it's unfortunate, but that's just part of it. Food plotting it's not a lazy man's game. Food plotting's the real deal. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but it pays big dividends for sure.
One thing that I would say, and maybe to benefit some guys down in, we'll call it Eastern Kentucky, but basically anywhere where you got poor soil is, you watch TV and you see these guys, they got these big 100 horsepower 4-wheel drive cab tractors and they got these, $30,000 no-till planters, and they got, they got every piece of equipment in the world to their disposal. But you start getting into the mountains and into those reclaimed mines and things like that. Don't worry about spending your money on that equipment. It takes very little equipment to just scratch the ground up. If you're going to dump your money into something, dump your money into lime.
Absolutely.
All those resources have been stripped from that soil for years and years and years. And if you want to really help your food source, all you got to do is neutralize that pH level in that soil and maybe add a little calcium. And look, I'm not talking go buy 2 50-pound bags of lime and dump it out on your 2-acre plot. Okay. I'm talking 2-3 tons of lime per
That's
acre.
at a minimum here, 2 tons per acre.
That's what you got to do. So if you're going to spend money and you want to see your results pay off, don't go out and buy a bunch of equipment. Don't go out and buy a bunch of branded seed blends. You can go to your farm store. You can buy, You know, you can buy turnips by the pound. You can buy brassicas by the pound, whatever the case is. But spend your money on that lime. And like I said, I'm talking 2 and 3 tons of lime an acre. And you'll really start to see where your money's going. And the next thing is, well, I forgot. I was on a roll there. I was on a roll, but I'll come back to it.
Come back to it. So I got a couple questions here. So, a couple comments. So one is, very on Ben says, Ben Moore says, dark of the moon, 60 degrees, October 22nd, 26th through November the 4th, downwind of adjacent food source. PJ, you had mentioned, Halloween. Halloween is the magic time. If you're a bow hunter, whether you want to be in South Central or South Ohio, or you want to be anywhere in Kentucky or whatever else, that's the time. If you only got 2 or 3 days and you say that's the only time we can hunt, we always say. And then we've got another question here. Says, do you know when the rut season is happening this year? Talking about, we know the primary. We know the primary season when it's going to happen, but depending on weather patterns, depending on what's going on, that can change or slightly change. So, talking about the rut, what's your prediction on that this year?
Is that for me or Matt or
that's for
whoever?
you, PJ?
I quit. I gave up on trying to predict when the rut was going to be. I look at the rut every year, towards that last week of October, and this is speaking in zone 4. That's my territory. That's where I hunt. And some of southern Ohio as well, because I've hunted it for a decade. But I start hunting when I see new bucks showing up into new areas. So, this is my own little theory. And, I've spent a lot of time in the woods, and I run a lot of cameras year round. And, what I see is around that, and especially cold fronts. Cold fronts really get them on their feet in October. But I start seeing new deer moving through, and it's the same deer year after year. It's like they're just scouting their fall territory before they actually move into that territory for the whole rut period. It's like you'll get a time period where they'll come into an area, they'll spend a few days there, and then they'll disappear again. Well, those deer come back usually around the 10th or 14th of November. Those deer will come back into that same area. It's almost like they're pre-scouting the location to make sure that it's still, nothing's changed, still no pressure in the area, and make sure everything's the same. And this is mature deer that I'm talking about. You can go out and shoot a deer anytime that you want, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's your prerogative, if that's what you want to do. But just like Matt said, when you're hunting a specific deer, in most cases, people hunt a specific deer. It's a mature deer with nice headgear, and that's one thing that I quit trying to predict the rut, man. From Halloween forward, I'm in the woods every chance I get.
I think they're coming in at late October. Yeah, I've just got a thing with Halloween. I just do. And I know a lot of guys out there, they just enjoy hunting Halloween. If I get to bow hunt one time a year, it's going to be on Halloween. It's just the way it is. Like if I can set aside the rest of my life schedule for one bow hunt a year, I'm going to bow hunt on Halloween evening. And, the monsters come out. That's what I always say. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. But what I think they're doing, PJ, is them deer, like you said, come in that later part of October, and they start hitting them scrapes. And I think that's them putting their calling card out there saying, okay, ladies, I'm in the area and I'll be back. Let's be honest. We all did that when we were teenagers.
Yeah, that's why they do it.
They go out, they hit those scrapes, and they say, look, here I am. I'm posting my picture on social media. And if any of you ladies would like to hit me up, here I'm going to be. So I think that's what a scrape is.
That's a good analogy for it, because I mean, that's what they're doing. You know, they're not out there scraping and rubbing that post-orbital gland on a stick for nothing. I mean, there's a purpose to it. And, you know, you're exactly right. And a scrape in late October. Man, that's the money. I've shot a lot of good bucks off scrape, big active scrape like that. And, you know, like you said, Halloween is kind of a special date for you. And I love Halloween too. But when you see those temperature drops, anytime from the third week of October on, when you see a temperature drop, you best be hunting. That's when you need to be in your tree stand. If you're waiting for the right time, it's like you flip a switch on those mature deer, especially if you get a 30-degree temperature drop. You start getting those frosty mornings and stuff like that late in the year. And it goes the other way around that I've seen. And this has been consistent for, you know, year after year after year. It can get cold. You'll start seeing that daylight movement, and then it'll warm back up, and it just dies. Even right dead in the middle of the rut. And I've shot big bucks before, and it 75 degrees and wind blowing 30-mile-an-hour in rifle season, and them out cruising around and looking. But these past few years, past 6-8 years, it's just like a light switch. Cold weather, they're moving. That's whenever I'm there, especially storm fronts or anything like that. Usually that's in relation to cold weather. But and then it'll get hot again, and then just your daylight movement just dies. You know, deer don't, you know, they don't quit breeding or quit rutting, but, you know, they exhaust a lot of calories when they're out cruising, searching, chasing does. And it's hard for them to do that when it's 90 degrees outside. And we've had 90-degree weather in November the last couple of years, and it's just, the rut's been crazy in eastern Kentucky. Yeah, I've not seen no rut action here in a long time, but still, you know, hunt over those scrapes in late season. You still anticipate them to be moving, cruising, looking for does. You know, they're still going to be doing that stuff, but looking for those cold weather temp drops is, you know, especially if you got limited time to hunt, that's when I'm in the stand. You know, weather fronts and cold weather temperature drops anytime from the third week of October up to the end of November, I'm in the stand if I got a buck tag.
Yeah. And like Paul Priest here says first week of November seems to be the best bow hunt for big bucks, I think, especially in the East here. That's a fantastic time, you know, and that's from that last week on. And I couldn't agree more with you all. And then look who it is, Matt. Scott. His daughter killed her big buck on November 1st last year, and right here in Eastern Kentucky with us.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. Fantastic hunt. And, you know, they seen a lot of deer. They seen a lot of bucks moving through that time. And that's the reason Scott and them, I was like, man, if you're going to come one time, you got to come during Halloween. So that worked out really good. Man, guys, I appreciate y'all so much. What are, in closing, what we got, man? What we got, Matt? Where you leaving hunters? We talking deer hunting. We've talked dove hunt. We've talked squirrels. What you got in closing for everybody?
Well, first thing I want to do is, you know, I'm a pawpaw now, so my mind's short and I forget. It's easy for me to forget my train of thought. So I want to back up and say, spend your money on lime and clover. You know, your lime's going to get you pH right, put your calcium in the soil, and then your clover, that's just going to be a natural way to fertilize that ground for future food plots coming up. So that's where I was trying to go with that earlier. But like I said, in closing, man, we're getting close to that time of year where everything seems to be more enjoyable. If you like being outdoors, you know, we're getting to that time of year where that we live for, and you know, it's just a lot of fun coming up here soon. So a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, a lot of pressure. Depends on which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you know, talking about lime now, real quick, two things. If you're talking about powdered lime, which here in Eastern Kentucky is hard for old boys like us to get delivered and get dispensed. You know, it's not like you folks down there in Central and Western Kentucky. You know, it is hard to get. You know, I don't know of anybody. You all down there, you all can, you know, rent a spreader and do all the things. It's hard to take a spreader up the side of one of these mountains. You know, you see, Matt, what I've had to purchase to be able to get around up here. You know, and and everything. But pelletized lime, tell them, Matt, pelletized lime is readily available when?
Takes anywhere from 6 to 18 months for pelletized lime to benefit your soil. So put it in early and just keep putting it in.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, if you got a field you're going to address, if you in pelletized lime, that's what we use. I don't know, PJ, you may have a little bit better down in your neck of the woods. Up in my neck of the woods, we're using pelletized. It doesn't matter what else is going on. It doesn't matter what you're going to cut, how much you're going to disturb. Throw that lime on there 3 months ago.
Now, Trinity, you can spray a liquid calcium that'll do the same thing, but it gets pretty expensive. So
yeah.
I've actually tried. I've done all three. I've done liquid lime, the pellet lime, and ag lime, powdered lime. And the powdered lime does seem to be a little bit more cost effective. You got to look at that neutralization potential of whatever lime that you're using to dictate how much that you use, because that can vary depending on the type of lime that you're using. But I didn't have a very good experience with liquid lime, and I'm not 100% sure why. But I ended up getting my hands on some. This was from an old mining company that had a bunch of liquid lime they used to mix with their hydro seeders when they would go in and reseed these strip mines. Lime is the most important thing. I mean, and it kills me, especially with the price of fertilizer. You see people go and spend $500-$600 on fertilizer, and they don't lime their plot. And well, for one, get a soil sample so you know how much lime you need. In most places, you can get that for free. I get the UK Extension Office in Prestonsburg to take my soil samples for me, and they do it for me. But it's important. It's like trying to feed somebody with their mouth sewed shut. You throw all that fertilizer on that plot, and if your lime ain't right, those plants can't take those nutrients up. But I'll tell you what can: warm season grasses and all the things that you don't want in your plot, because it's going to be competing with everything that you're trying to plant. It's already evolved, and it's going to grow well in that low pH soil anyway. So all you're doing is feeding it, and what your planting's not going to do. It is the most important thing, is to correct your pH on a food plot. And and it's not easy. It's like Trinity said, pellet lime it's so much easier to spread. I bought an old rusty PTO spreader for my tractor. I think I gave $150 for it, and it's in rough shape. But now it sure beats the heck out of spreading a ton of lime by hand, which I've done before. And it's rough. There's certain tools that you want. Unfortunately, we don't have lime trucks in our area like you might have in some of your agricultural areas, that you can pay somebody to come out with a lime truck and spread that pellet or powdered lime. But you can do it. You can do it by hand even if you want to. But just like what Matt was saying, I mean, you're looking at a minimum around here. You got pH. I've seen them as 4.5 to 5.7. Seems to be about your typical pH that I've seen in Eastern Kentucky, and you're wanting to get up to that 6.5 to 7 mark, and you're looking at a minimum 2 tons per acre, and that's with the higher end of that spectrum. At 5.7, it's going to take 2 tons per acre, and at 4 ton, or at 4 in your 4 on your pH, you're looking at 6 ton an acre, and I've seen that numerous times where that was the requirement, was 6 tons per acre, and put the lime on 3 to 6 months ahead of time, because it takes time for that lime to neutralize the soil. So you can't put the lime at the time of planting and all that. So just, if you're going to be food plotting, it is expensive, but it pays big dividends, but you need to educate yourself on it. If not, you're going to have a bad experience with it, and you'll probably never want to do it again. So definitely learn about pH and nutrient uptake of what you're planting, and the type of area that you're planting in, and it'll help you for sure. But don't overlook the pH. That's the number one thing people do too.
Compare how much feed you're throwing on the ground versus what you can put in the ground.
And do not overseed brassica. That's a horrible, horrible thing to do. And put that cedar, like clover, put it on the lowest setting, because brassica seed is very small. And man, when you seed it thick, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because it competes against each other. You're going to have little stunted brassica. A lot of times it'll die out before winter even gets there. But that's another thing to consider. Some seed, like winter rye and winter wheat, stuff like that, you can put it on just as thick as you want to sow it. But brassica is not one of those things. You got to be very careful with brassica and really apply your the recommended seeding rate and stay within those thresholds. You may think that you're not even throwing seed down, but believe me, you are. And that little seed turns into a big old plant. And you got to make sure that you don't overseed brassica. And I know Matt sounds like he's done a lot of food plots, so I'm sure he may have made that mistake before too. So you do not want to do that.
They come up about that tall and they're yellow and not very big. So
yeah, it sucks when it happens, but sometimes you got to learn things the hard way. And if you can take anything from this conversation, take some of the things we've learned the hard way and save yourself the trouble and save yourself the money. Get a soil test, adjust your pH, and apply the recommended seeding rate on whatever it is that you're planting, because it's there for a reason.
Yeah, very good. And don't forget to frost seed that clover. Clover is the best.
I mix clover with every fall planting that I plant. I terminate my clover in the fall and then reseed clover in with my fall annual, and then overseed with grain after that. And then the next spring you've got clover, and that grain comes back, and that grain helps suppress weeds in your clover. And if you're planting clover, you got to understand that you can't just plant clover and leave it, because everything is going to be competing with that. Everything grows higher than clover, and it'll shade it out. And eventually, and there's nothing wrong with having grass and broadleaf stuff in your clover. That's fine. But if you let it just keep growing, eventually you're not going to have no clover, because it just completely outcompetes it. And another thing, like Matt said, clover's a legume. It takes nitrogen out of the air and puts it in the ground, whereas everything else takes nitrogen out of the soil and puts it in the air. So the clover actually is fertilizing your plot for your fall planting.
Yep. Boys got the new decoys in. Who's going to be dove hunting come September the 1st?
I wish I was, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off.
Global Outdoors, man. Global Outdoors, I'm telling you, we are excited about our new partnership with Global Outdoors. I mean, I got my shipment this week. Look at this, man. Look at that right there. Oh, bushy tailed squirrel. Look here. I've not named her yet. What are we going to name her?
Jane Doe?
Yeah.
Oh, Jane.
Oh, Jane right there. Wait. I'm not done.
There we go.
Yeah. Matt will be having a thermal on that come December.
Yeah, boy.
I've hunted them predators for a decade, and I trapped for the first time last winter. And I'm telling you, you talking about making a difference quick.
Oh yeah,
I sure done it that way.
Matt's got a burial ground. Look here, buddy. I mean, that's a whole lot easier to carry than a daggone pump decoy.
Yep.
Oh, and this is my favorite, man. This is my favorite right here.
I've still never done it.
Yeah.
Rib out of the sky.
I bet you'll have a chance this winter as TLC's launching guided sandhill crane hunts, man. You'll have to go and join us, PJ, you and Matt both.
I ain't never done it. Now I sure would like to do it. It looks like a good time for sure.
But you got this is going to get you this. You got to graduate from this to this.
Yeah.
This to this, Matt. This to this. Listen, that 20 gauge pop shot bird versus that 10 gauge bird's a lot of difference right there.
You got to use steel and tungsten on sandhills.
Yeah.
That changes it for sure.
Sure do. Guys, thank y'all very much, man. I appreciate y'all. Nathan Har says that Lloyd looks like guide material. LOL.
Yeah, he's referring to me.
What's he trying to say, PJ?
He's thinking that I need to be guiding, which I would love to do it. But when I guide and I'm taking my clients out in the woods, I'm going to make sure that they're set up for success, and that requires scouting. And unfortunately, right now, I don't have it. And I've told you over and over and over again, when the time comes, these kids get a little growed up, I'll be helping you.
All right, man. That's what I like to hear. Man, that'd be dangerous. A Trinity Shepherd, a Matt Woolwine, a Paris Canada, a PJ Collins, a Nathan Harless, a few others I can name. Lord have mercy. That'd be pretty good, wouldn't it?
The elk would be in trouble, it sounds like, for sure.
That's right, man. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in to On Air and Outdoors with TLC Outfitters. PJ, we appreciate you and your time. Matt, you and your time. I know you guys are busy. Everybody remember, if you want to know the creator, just look at the creation and what a wonderful creation we have here to be able to enjoy. God has blessed us in many ways, especially if we're hunters and fishermen and ladies. Get out there and enjoy, man. Stay safe this week. Don't take this stuff for granted. Even though we're good old country boys and country girls, this heat can reach up and bite us real quick, and it don't take but just a wrong move or one mistake to get in trouble, especially with almost 100-degree weather. Be sure to check in with us. Stay tuned. We got a lot of good stuff coming up, and everybody stay safe. Make your plans. Get online, fw.ky.gov. Find you a dove field for September the 1st. All of us will be out there. Stay tuned for that. So, and don't forget, September the 2nd, everybody's looking forward to opening archery, and September the 9th will be open archery for elk. So we're looking forward to it. Everybody have a great rest of your week. We'll hope to see you real soon again on Air and Outdoors. You all have a good one.
Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian mountains, field and streams. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks they're on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name.